Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Glad to have you along. Appreciate you joining us, no matter where and how you're listening. On one of our great affiliates, 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, up in the region on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM WJOB, or over in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right here to each of these stations for continued great coverage throughout the day. Plenty to get to on the program today. Looking forward to talking to Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, as, of course, Indiana gives up a massive loss yesterday at home to Maryland, a game that seemed to get away from them after they made a great rally and come back and look like they had that game in hand. Of course, we'll be talking about that in depthly. We'll hear from Mike Woodson. We'll talk about the Big Ten overall over the weekend. Who did what? Penn State not resting slowly to replace Tom Allen. It's a trickle-down effect. They grab Ohio State's Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator. So now the reigning champion Buckeyes looking for a replacement. The NFL, the big game, as you have to call it, is set. Surprising whitewashing of the Commanders by Philadelphia yesterday, 55-23. And the Chiefs, they do it again. Can they do the unbelievable and become the first NFL team to three-peat as big game champions? They got by a tight one over the Bills, 32-29. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, man, they're like back in the day when, oh my gosh, why Jim can't think of his last name right now, but when they lost 4 straight Super Bowls, crazy. But plenty to get to, and nothing bigger, of course, I know for IU fans, than yesterday's loss to Maryland at home in a game that Maryland had kind of controlled there for the better parts of the game. But Indiana made a great rally. They came back. They took the lead late and seemed to have the game. I guess it's not fair to call it in hand, because any close game is not necessarily in hand. We just saw Houston over the weekend go to Kansas down 6 with 10 seconds to go and managed to push that game to overtime. And I think they got out of there with a double overtime win. So nothing is ever in hand, as you would say in today's games. But man, the way that game ended yesterday, there's no doubt that left a lot of people upset. A lot of questions to ask, and with good reason. It looked like complete discombobulation at the end. The right players were not in the game. How that is the case, I don't know. But they moved stuff around, finally got him in, seemed to have a play. The play didn't get run, whatever the case may be. It didn't happen. So that's that. Also, over the weekend, the Indiana high school boys continued on, and that means our friend Greg Rakestraw was busy at it. Greg, joining us now. Sir, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
My weekend was busy as per usual. Games Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and a pairing show yesterday. So just your average late January weekend.
Yeah, just another triple weekend at you. All kinds of things going on. Like I said, with Indiana boys their season's winding down. Anytime you have a pairing show. Now, was this the boys or girls pairing show? I'm not up to speed on that.
So the girls pairing show was last night. So the girls have 1 week of the regular season left to go. Sectional play starts February the 4th. The boys have 5 weeks of the season left to go. Boys pairing show is February 23rd. Boys sectional starts March 4th.
Good deal. Anything over the weekend popping that changed things? That I saw the recent poll, and it seems like the usual suspects and are still undefeated. Fischer still at the top, unblemished and rolling along. But there's always other games that matter.
Right. The game that caught my attention was the game that I had Friday night in terms of kind of the other things, because Fischer's is the clear established number one team in the state, and that's been the case really since the season. Looked awfully good. It's the first time they've had to change their starting lineup all season. Cameron Webster, who's kind of guard, but from a second guard behind Robinson. He was out due to an ankle injury. They brought Duke Carnes off the bench, who was probably their best three-point shooter, to get the start. LN is not a team that's overly deep. In fact, I saw them against Plainfield on Tuesday. They played 6 players in that game. They had to bring a couple of more seniors to get a little more playing time, and Chris Terry and Jeremiah Hankerson. LN put up 88 on North Central in an 88-70 win. Solid offensive performance. Nobody has the front court that Lawrence North has this season in terms of size and speed and strength. Jamar Thomas at 6'6", Brennan Miller at 6'7", Kai McGrew at 6'9". I had Lawrence North twice last week, Jim. McGrew may have had 10 or 11 dunks in those 2 games combined. No one has his physicality from a size standpoint. So, regardless of rankings, and LN's a top 5 team in the rankings, I think it's Fischer's 1 and LN 2, at least when the 2 teams are at their best. I'm looking forward to seeing those 2 teams clash on February the 18th. That's a Tuesday night. I'll have that game, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, and unfortunately, I think that's where a lot of Hoosier fans must be looking at to find some good basketball, but plenty of it to go around at the high school ranks right now as the season plays out. Braylon Mullins has already stamped his name on the Mr. Basketball trophy. What a week he had, and they're rolling along still, as well as a team to be not forgotten with. Well, they have 2 losses though on the season so far. Does he have enough help for Greenfield Central to win the state title?
I don't think so. It's certainly possible. The team that has tripped them up in the postseason is New Pal. Greenfield already beat New Pal by 17 back in mid-December. B, New Pal's in 3A this year. They're part of that group that, along with Cathedral and Attucks and Shelbyville, that are all having really good seasons, but are playing in a classification smaller than they have for a good chunk of the year. So Anderson is the team that would likely be in their path in terms of the sectional. Mount Vernon, with the youngest of the Erdl kids, is in that group too. But probably I think this is the year that Greenfield Central breaks through and wins the sectional. Now it's a matter of whom they would draw in the regional. And so that, again, could you get the luck of the draw and maybe get the sectional? It's going to be a little bit weaker, which would be sectional 12, which that group is kind of the Southport, Franklin Central group. Maybe you look into that, but you also could get either Lawrence North coming out of sectional number 10, or they could get the West Side sectional winner, which could be Plainfield, could be Ben Davis. Ben Davis and Greenfield Central played early this year. Greenfield Central came from behind and won. But again, that's without Mark Zachary. And the thought is that he is going to play at some point in time in February. He has had both knee and thumb surgeries, from the wear and tear of playing football and basketball. Heading to play at Notre Dame, is yet to play this season. But the thought is that thumb is going to allow him to play at some point in time in the next couple of weeks. So that could be a little bit different.
He sounds like Curtis Rourke battling through all of that, man. That's not, he's getting off to Notre Dame to play football, so it's not going to be get any easier, but that shows how tough he is, though, battling through all of that stuff. But we know how good of a player Mark Zachary is and how great of a point guard he is and a football player. He's one of the best, probably best athletes in the state.
No doubt about that. The other guy that would be of that ilk would be John Anthony Hall from Fisher's, again, on the state championship favorite. John is a three-sport kid. He qualified for the state track and field finals in June. The next day, played for the Indiana Junior All-Stars in basketball against Kentucky. And Jimmy's not going to play either sport in college. He's a football player. He's going to be a wide receiver at Stanford. So in the overall best athlete category, there's a couple of kids from a basketball standpoint that might make the Indiana All-Stars this year that may not be playing college basketball.
Yeah, you don't see that as much anymore as you used to, man. You used to see everybody was every great athlete was a three-star athlete. I mean, a three sport star. And you just don't see that so much with all of the specification nowadays. But I think that most coaches would advise guys to play other sports. It opens up other parts of your game and your abilities that your game of specifics doesn't always do.
Seemingly the group that is the most appreciative of that from a college coaching standpoint are football coaches. And maybe it's because you only play X amount of football games in a given year. You're not playing 34 weeks of football like you can in other sports. But they want guys being the combination football wrestler or being the football basketball player or being the football track and field. That's the kids that you tend to see being multi-sport kids. To a lesser degree, you see that in basketball. And again, I wish we saw more of it too, because frankly, Jim, I'll be honest, this is the year where I have seen more injuries in terms of affecting teams and affecting players in basketball. And the runner-up year would not be close. In other words, I can't think of one where this many injuries have affected things. And I keep coming back to these guys are playing way too many games. They're playing year-round. There's no time for rest or recovery. And we're getting guys that have overuse injuries by the time they get to their senior year. And that scares me because, again, it has been, sadly, a very injury-ravaged season in terms of Indiana high school boys basketball.
I agree with you. The NFL, it's set. The stage is set for the big game. I guess I will say, just to make sure I don't get in any trouble. One game was great yesterday. The other game, a little unexpected as the Commanders get whitewashed. The Commanders get commanded by the Philadelphia Eagles, 55-23, while the Chiefs, boy, you got to feel for the Bills. It feels like the Jim Kelly days.
Well, at least Jim Kelly got to the Super Bowl, and that's not me bagging on Josh Allen. But perhaps the Buffalo Bills, to switch sports on analogies, maybe they know what it's like to be, the New York Knicks or to be Charles Barkley during the days of Michael Jordan. I mean, let's face it. The playoff win last night for Patrick Mahomes, he passed Joe Montana for career playoff wins.
And
the only quarterback he's trailing is Tom Brady. And so think about,
he's 29 years old.
Correct. When Brady finally stepped aside, we're like, there's no way anybody's catching his level of Super Bowls, his level of playoff wins, etc. And now, just a couple of years later, we're legitimately having that conversation. That's the run the Chiefs have been on. And, well, I have Chiefs fatigue like everybody else. I was rooting for, once we got to those, I was probably rooting in my heart of hearts for a Bills-Lions Super Bowl matchup. Given the matchups yesterday, I was like, all right, Bills Commanders, let's have a repeat of the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, from back in 1992. Well, we're going to get Eagles and Chiefs, and while that's a yawner, what we do get out of that is having a lot of guys with Indiana ties getting to be in the Super Bowl. So you will see George Karlaftis go for 3 in 3 years. You will see Drew Tranquil of Fort Wayne. You will see Carson Steele, who, while didn't play a major offensive role in yesterday's game, was a guy that you saw him in there at the end of the game as they're trying to salt the game away and do so successfully. So you will at least see some local ties as far as that game is concerned.
And I know yesterday, the Indiana basketball game, Trent Green was in the house supporting his nephew, Luke Goody, unfortunately in a losing cause. But that's the first time I've seen Trent Green back for quite a while. Saw him hanging out with Kurt Signetti. So they got to meet. That was probably for the first time, I think. But good to see him back in the house. A name that spent a lot of time in the NFL, leading the greatest show on dirt until he got that wicked concussion and injury. But good to see him back yesterday.
Good to see him as well. And obviously, he did that vignette before the Michigan game, I think. And so, Trent maybe doesn't get back a lot often because of his schedule, but clearly he has stayed engaged with the program.
Yeah, and it's always awesome to see all of that. Speaking of Indiana, I know that was a little bit more for you to probably be able to catch yesterday, but they they had a great opportunity to get something they have not had any of this year, and that's a great quality win. They made a great run to get back. Maryland had kind of controlled the game. Their guard play, perimeter play was outstanding, and but Indiana made a run at the end of the game and not only got back in it, but took the lead and had the lead late, had a foul to give, not able to get the foul. Maryland able to get the 3-pointer off to take a 1-point lead. And then worst of all is Indiana has, albeit just not a lot of time left to get a shot off, run a play, but it was complete discombobulation and more angst and wailing and gnashing of teeth in Simon Scott Assembly Hall yesterday.
I would suggest a good amount of sponsor product to help you get right through the rest of the show with the fine folks at Hard Truth, because I know IU basketball is going to be your focus the rest of the way. And again, you're right. If you take chunks of the game out, do I think IU played all that poorly? No. Is Maryland a pretty good team? Yes. But obviously the two things that will catch people's attention from yesterday's game is the absolute, butchering of the late game situation, having a foul to give, substitutions that were made, the lack of any sort of coherent plan in terms of the end of the game scenario. All criticisms on that are very much justified and warranted. And then the other thing that I saw that I'm sure you're going to address as well, that made the rounds on social media, is the fact that Luke Goody had to walk over to Mike Woodson and say, "Hey, handshakes." Those two things give such an indictment of just being absolutely lost and over your skis and not being able to manage what needs to be managed. It kind of further cements the cries for it to be somebody different by the time the season tips off a few months from now.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I wonder, is this like it was almost Biden-esque? And I'm not political. I don't do politics. I don't talk about politics, but I think people know what I'm saying. Is it's getting a little. Surely he realized that was the end of the game and not the half. But it seemed as though he had forgotten everything at the end of the game. The right players did not seem to be in. There was so much confusion, and then you add that on top of it, and not giving the foul. There was so much that did not get done, that did not get managed, that it only falls into one place. And I think that we all know that. But it's the concern of why that domino effect happened, and you're like, you just, I know fans just put their hands in the air and they're over it, but there are more games to be played. It looked like there was, it's a mess. And I mean, there's not a lot that I could say other than beating a dead horse, which is pointless. But yeah, it doesn't look good, Greg, but
No.
And you're in this point. What do you tell fans? I mean, I'm not going to. It's not like I can sit up here and lie, or I try not to, be negative because there are so many games left. I've been through that with Archie Miller, and it was not fun. So, but I'm starting to wonder. And I've always been a proponent that yes, there's change coming. There's no question in my mind change is coming, but it won't happen until the end of the season. Now I really start to wonder how bad can Scott let it get?
I don't think there's anything you can do between now and the middle of March. And if results dictate you're not making a change, then good, because you're winning. But there's nothing that points to this program and the current path that it's on being a consistent winner, or again, a winner at the level that it should be. And again, because I made this point a couple of weeks ago, and one of your listeners apparently struggles with listening comprehension. Indiana should be the bluest of the blue bloods because of the current way, the modus operandi, the way we do business, because of the crowds, because of the NIL packaging, because of, frankly, the way to put it, the salaries that guys are getting paid. Indiana should be a top 5, top 10 level program. And I'm not sure they're going to finish top 10 in the Big Ten, Jim. And that might be about the best way to describe the current scenario of Indiana University men's basketball.
I agree wholeheartedly. What is on the schedule for one Greg Rakestraw?
Well, one of my favorite games of the year is tomorrow night, because I'm going home. Perry Central and Lanesville. I get to do one game a year back home. And so looking forward to making my return to Harrison County. So if I owe you money in Southern Indiana, now's the time to collect. I'll be there tomorrow night. Wednesday night, it'll be Lawrence North at New Pal. We'll get to see Julius Gizzy. Again, New Pal out of this game on the schedule a couple of years ago to kind of test themselves. And even though they're now in 3A, they kept it on, which I think is a great thing. That's my Wednesday night game. Friday night, Ben Davis and Carmel. Again, both teams missing some key pieces there. Saturday night, Fishers and Carmel is my game. And here's the other thing that I will announce as well. So Jim has been wonderful about allowing me to plug, ISC Sports Network or following me. Coming up here in about an hour or so, I'm a part of the Indiana Sports Writers and Sportscasters Association, and I get to announce our Hall of Fame class. So Go to my feed at Greg Rakestraw, and I will let you know who the 6 inductees into the Indiana Sports Writers and Sportscasters Hall of Fame will be. That ceremony is April 6th at Vala Vista Golf Club in Greenwood. And we have a Sports Writer of the Year, a Sportscaster of the Year, a Helping Hands Award winner, and a Lifetime Achievement Award winner. And all of those get announced via a press release and my Twitter feed coming up during the 10 o'clock hour.
Now, I do know, I won't spoil the rest of it because I don't know the rest of it. I do know that Don Fischer was named the Sportscaster of the Year for the, 111th time?
So that is actually a separate organization, and he let me hold the trophy. It's okay. He let me hold the trophy for an entire year, which I appreciate. But he won the National Sports Media Association's Indiana Sportscaster of the Year. And yes, I believe this is his 178th time he has won the award.
This is the Indiana one that you won last year. Okay.
Correct.
And you
Correct.
might be winning.
I won the national one last year. And so hence, so it's 2 different organizations, but I at least have the trophy to prove it.
I can't keep up with you winners. I'm just glad to have you guys along. I'm just fortunate. It's Greg and Don's world. I'm just happy to live in it. You guys are the best.
Cover a lot of games. Let's put it away.
You cover a lot, period. You can stop right there with that, man, because you cover the Colts and everything, and we greatly appreciate you and your time here with us because it's always an added part to the show, brother. Congratulations, and make sure you give Greg a follow and give ISC a follow. Make sure you're following that because all the coverage that is coming up, but year round. We've got more coming up, Greg. Appreciate you.
Thanks, bud.
We'll be back with the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, in 2 minutes.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday, and that means the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, with us. And Don, no way to sugarcoat yesterday's defeat. That was very, very heartbreaking. A game that Maryland dominated for the most part with their perimeter play, but Indiana made a great rally at the end of the game. Not only got back in the game, but took the lead, had a late lead, and kind of had, I won't say had the game in hand, because there's no such thing as having a game in hand unless you're up 15 after seeing Houston be down 6 with 10 seconds to play at Kansas and managed to get out of there with a win. But man, it was just the fashion in which that game unfolded at the end, with having a foul to give before the three-pointer gets off. And then, of course, the issues with getting their own shot off at the end and the personnel and all of that. But kind of a very, very disappointing game for Hoosier fans and for the Hoosiers overall yesterday.
There's no question about it, Jim. The frustration has well boiled over at this point for the fan base, no question. And I think for the team as well. I think the struggle right now with this basketball team is right now the mindset. Making the right plays. That's always going to be a question mark for ball clubs, especially at the end of ball games or the game is on the line. Those kinds of things can happen. Mistakes can be made. But this ball club consistently has played inconsistently this year. And so it's not a surprise that this ball club couldn't find a way to get it done yesterday at the end. And to make the kinds of mistakes that they made. They got a foul to give there. They don't give it, and Rice knocks down, and we're talking about Rodney Rice for Maryland, knocks down a three that gives them the lead. Now you're down, and you have an opportunity here at the end to get a shot off. You get a shot off, but it's absolutely too late, too little too late. And there was also mistakes made on that play. Guys weren't where they're supposed to be. So right now, the biggest fight that this team is having is their own mentality, in my opinion. And the struggles that they're going to continue to have if they don't get that changed are going to be monumental, because they have 4 very tough ball games coming up here, 3 of which are on the road. And if it doesn't change in that segment of the season, things are going to get bad for this Indiana ball club.
Yeah, up north next, of course, a trip at Purdue, who is playing very, very well, period. And then you add into the fact that's one of the absolute toughest places to play. That does not help things. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. There seems to, I don't want to say infighting, but even on the court, I see a lot of guys kind of not arguing necessarily, but confused as to you're supposed to be here, and it's a little finger pointing, and so that kind of goes to what you're saying. There just didn't seem to be a grasp on everything at the end, getting the players in late that were on the bench. it's kind of hard to understand, to be honest with you.
Well, exactly, because at this point in the season, yeah, you had 6 new faces on this ball club that came in, and you've played 20 ball games, and at this point in the season, you can't have that kind of confusion or that kind of discontent, so to speak. I don't know if it's discontent or not. These guys seem to like each other and seem to get along, but they're not all on the same page from a mental standpoint, in my opinion. The ups and downs of a season, everybody goes through those. But you've got to be able to overcome a lot of the things that happen on the floor with the right mindset. And I've questioned that aspect of it all season long, because we see guys come out and not have the same energy level as the opponent, not have the same effort level as the opponent. And that goes from one half to the next half. And you know, you see them play hard at one point, and then they're not playing hard at another point. And the frustration I feel for this basketball team right now is the fact that they are not all on the same page mentally, more so than physically.
Yeah, and the fact that there's still all these questions about who's supposed to be where at this stage of the season,
right,
is a little bewildering. It's especially for those that have been in the system for a long time. You understand that there are new faces, but even with that, this late in the season, there shouldn't be so much confusion going on, and that still seems to be the case. And then Indiana had a different lineup for the most part yesterday. They didn't start Luke Goody, bring him off the bench, but because of foul trouble, he kept heading to the bench, so they couldn't leave him in for stretches, which hurt because he's a major part of their game. Only gets off 3 3-point attempts in the entire game yesterday. He was 2 of 5 from the field. Both of those came on 3-point attempts where he hit 2 of 3, but he was just not able to get enough. Maryland destroyed it from the 3-point line. They hit over 50. They hit 50% for the game, 12 of 24, and that was ultimately the deciding factor.
No question. It's frustrating. There's no question about it. Everybody's frustrated. The fans are frustrated. Coaches are frustrated. The players are frustrated. When you're off and you've lost 4 of your last 5 ball games, there's going to be frustration that sets in. The question is, can you overcome it? Can you turn things around? And now you've got the toughest part of your schedule about to take place. I think you've got more than just 4 games. You've got 6 games in a row here that are going to be really, really challenging. And some of those are at home. Some of those are on the road. It doesn't matter where the game's being played at this juncture. It's how you approach it from a mental standpoint. As Bob Knight once said, the mental is the physical as 4 is to 1. And there is no doubt about that. Right now, the mental right now for Indiana is probably on the low side in any case, as you look at it. I think they always try to put on a good front when they go into press conferences and those kinds of things. But behind the scenes, there is a lot of frustration on this basketball team.
No question. And they head to a place, like I said, your arch rival. But not only that, more importantly, a team that is playing really, really well, a team that is that has a ton of experience on it. Virtually all of their players have been in that system, all their major players for years. And Matt Painter does an incredible job. You've got probably the best point guard in the Big Ten in Braden Smith leading that charge. And that's going to be a huge challenge for Indiana because they have a great mix. Purdue has a good mix of perimeter play and going inside. Trey Kaufman-Renn, I've got to say, he's done a lot better job than I thought that he was going to be able to do, replacing Zach Edey. Not really replacing Zach Edey, but in lieu of having him, they've made it work.
Oh, there's no question. The Boilermakers are a really well-coached basketball team. Matt Painter has made that program into one of the best in the country, not just in the Big Ten. It's one of the best in the country. And for an Indiana team to go in there, you're going to have to have the right mindset, and you're not going to be able to just go in there and think that if you don't come up and if you go into that contest thinking that you've got no chance, you've got no chance. And you've got to be able to play well together. You've got to be able to execute the game plan. And you're going to have to play better than Purdue if you're going to beat them at Mackey Arena. We all know that. It's happened before. Mike Woodson took a team in there a couple of years ago with Trace Jackson Davis and beat them in West Lafayette. So it can be done. But Indiana has not played the kind of basketball this year that would give you an indication that they have a chance in this ball game unless they come in with a completely different mindset. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not a coach. The players on this basketball team are the only ones that can make the decision that they're going to go in there with the right mindset and they're going to give it their best effort. And hopefully that will happen on Friday.
Yeah, and it's not like it can't happen because I know that from what we've seen, it's not likely. But if you would have told me I'll give you Illinois and 15 points against Maryland at home, I would have said, okay, I'll take all you got. And yet that didn't happen. And the Illini lost that game huge at home, which is a shocker to that Maryland team. It's like Indiana beats a team, and then the next thing they know, that their opponent goes and does something crazy, like USC did the same thing. It's nuts to see that, but it can be done. It's Big Ten conference season is crazy, and crazy things happen.
Well, here's another example of how things can turn around. Look at Minnesota. Look at Minnesota, what Minnesota has done here in recent weeks. They have completely turned their season around. They've become a factor against everybody that they've played. And we've seen it go the other way, too. Penn State this year has struggled pretty much ever since Indiana played them and beat them in Philadelphia. So we know it can happen. It can turn. But it's going to have to turn quickly, and the mindset is going to have to be totally different than what we've seen here over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've got your next game coming up at Purdue, Don. So what this week? What has to happen before that game comes to be?
Well, that's up to the coaching staff and the players. Their mindset are the most important here because they're the guys that are going to go out there on the floor and play the game. There's nothing that I can say or nothing that I can do that's going to factor into this whole thing. All I can tell you is we have to have a change in the thinking process. There's got to be some kind of a change dictated by the players, by the coaches, to get this thing turned around and to get their minds right. And look, like I said before, there are examples this year of teams that have done that already. And if you go out and play your best, give it your all, and that's a rah-rah thing we're talking about now. But my point is, it can change if they have the right mindset. And that's what's got to take place here because you've got a week to get ready for Purdue. I mean, you essentially have 5 days to get ready for this basketball game because they don't have another ball game this week leading up to it. So the practices this week are going to have to be very, very, very good.
Yeah, and a few positive things. You've seen the reemergence of Mackenzie Mbako, who has back-to-back been leading scorer for the team, 20 points in the previous game, tied 16 with Miles Rice in this game. And speaking of Miles Rice, what a three-point effort at the end, 3 of 5, but all 3 of those come in the later stages of the game and kind of fueled that rally by Indiana.
Right.
He has not been a big-time three-point shooter this year, although he has probably been one of the more consistent players along with Ballo for this team. But man, he came up huge yesterday and was a big part for Indiana even having a shot.
Right. And like we've talked earlier, the mistakes that were made in this ball game were critical ones at the most inopportune times. And if you could avoid those kinds of things and hang in with whoever you're playing against and make the right decisions and do the right things at the end of a ball game, you can get things turned around here. Right now, however, it doesn't feel, we're all feeling the frustration of what's happened here in the last 4 out of 5 ball games. And to get this thing turned, it's got to be a mental thing, I think, more than anything else. You're right. Anthony Leo yesterday I thought he did a lot of really good things in that ball game again.
He made some crazy good plays.
Yeah, I mean, he did an excellent job in that regard. Obviously, getting McKenzie going again, that's big time, no doubt about that. Miles made some really good plays in the second half of the ball game and then really kind of a bonehead play at the end. because he didn't follow the instructions, so to speak, in that last play of the game. But anyway, long story short, this is a basketball team that needs to have a resurgence here, and it needs to start this Friday night.
No doubt about that. Congratulations for Sportscaster of the Year again by the NSMA for your 111th time, it seems like.
Yeah, right. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know why you bring that up. It's been 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since they announced that. Why are you bringing it up now?
Because I kept forgetting and I felt horrible. And I'm like, God, I keep forgetting. So I had to write it down and highlight it today to make sure I mentioned it because I kept forgetting. And I apologize. Because
not a problem. Not a problem.
Honor.
Do not apologize.
Is that like the 38th?
No. From that particular organization, that's 28, and I've got 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's only 28.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. So big.
He's the great one. We appreciate you, sir. Coach's show, all that.
Yep. Tonight, Inside IU Basketball with Mike Woodson, 7:05 at Hoosier Hanks. It's been a while.
There you go. There you can catch Don in person. Appreciate you, my friend. Have a great rest of your day and week.
You too. See ya.
Don Fischer joining us here on the program. We've got more coming up. Back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, FreeThink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate you completely. As always, hitting up the comments. Appreciate everybody doing that as well. Man, I don't know what to say. You saw what I saw, and there's no sugarcoating it. There's no way to say, I've been saying for weeks, there's no doubt that a change is coming at the end of this season. There's no point in trying to act like it's otherwise. I think that ship sailed. There was probably the ability to get by that this year for this staff or for Mike Woodson per se. I'm not sure. It seemed to me, and maybe I was not close to I can't hear what's being said in the huddles and all that, but I did see that after Indiana did not get the foul before the 3-point shot went up by Maryland's Rice, that Yasir seemed to be just completely upset with something. Maybe it was Mike Woodson. It seemed to go in that direction, but maybe that was nothing to do with it. And a lot of times I saw players kind of, hey, pointing and like, there was a lack of communication amongst the players, and it's not a good look. That never, I guess I could stop there, but especially this far in, 4 years into the regime, 20 games into the season, however many games overall they are into the season, actually. That is, now they're in the conference play. Indiana has dropped to 5-5 after, were they 4-1 at one time? I know they were 4-2, but they've lost 4 out of their last 5 games and have dropped down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're in 9th spot at the moment, but that will probably continue to fall as upcoming games, as we've talked about. You've got to go to Purdue up next, and that's not going to be an easy chore because Purdue is in second place in the conference right now at 8-2, behind Michigan State, who's 8-0. Michigan's still sitting up there at 6-2. They've got a couple games to make up, it looks like. Wisconsin has climbed, slowly, quietly climbed. Maryland now up there. They're 5th in the conference at 6-4, tied with Illinois, who has lost some. Illinois is they've been a weird team this year. They win. They're a very good team with some good wins, but boy, they've got a couple of bad home losses. They've lost to USC and Maryland at home, and they lost badly to Maryland at home by like 20, I believe. So Oregon's still hanging around in the middle. UCLA still trying to hang around at 14-6, which boy, they've dropped down to Indiana territory. That was only Indiana's second home loss on the season yesterday. I don't think it's going to be their last, unfortunately. I fear what it's going to be like, and I'm completely honest. Is it February 8th, I believe, when Indiana plays Michigan? Man, that's not going to be a good day in Simon Scott Assembly Hall, because I am more than confident that the opposing coach is going to receive an unbelievable, rousing round of applause, where that will be quite the opposite for Indiana's coach at the moment. Now, everyone wants to talk about, well, who's going to be the next coach and all of that. Hey, man, there is so much that goes into that. And a lot of people are wondering why Indiana wouldn't make the decision now. Well, there's a lot that goes into it. First of all, you have to look at the fact that how will it affect the team currently? How will it affect the brand, the product, which I get it. The product is looking not good now, but you still have to consider that. Do you make it worse, or is that even possible? I don't think so. I think that you would probably see an Ohio State situation but the good thing is there will not be the mistake that Ohio State probably made, and just to fall into the trap of hiring the interim. That's not going to be the issue. Who would be the interim? I think it would end up being Yasir Rosemont, to be honest with you. But I have no information toward this, but my feeling is that Scott Dolson is trying his best to get through the end of the season without having to pull the trigger for obvious reasons. But he's been hoping for a ray of hope, and a game like yesterday is one of those that just puts a bigger nail in the coffin. Not that you lost, but how you lost, why you lost. And maybe they lose the game anyway, but you didn't give it the effort that would have given you the best opportunity not to lose. You did not get the foul before they got a 3-point shot off. Maybe they still managed to do that. I don't know, but it sure makes it more difficult. Who knows? We won't know, but we just know what did happen. Indiana doesn't have the players. Anthony Little had a great game. He put himself in positions yesterday at the right time to do some timely things, but Indiana is so weak at guard. You know, the Kanan Carlisle, who was supposed to be the guy at the 2 spot, boy, has he been disappointing. 2 whopping points yesterday, 1 shot made, 0 for 2 at the free throw line, no less. Indiana shot 60% at the free throw line as a team yesterday, while Maryland was shooting 78%, just on 9 free throws and 15 free throws total. So only 24 shot in totality, which was a kind of a cleanly called game, but not good. Nope. It's not good. What else can you say? And all I can say is Mike Woodson not into answering. You know, they kind of, somebody asked him yesterday, what is it you're working on? And I believe he said, well, I'm just not going to talk about what I'm working on with you guys. I'm just not. That's always his go-to when you get to a specific, when you pin him down, when you actually can pin him down, which is not very easily because he usually is able to deflect. But this is what happens. I've talked about this. You don't get answers, and man, this team needs it. Here's what he had to say.
Yes, Mike,
yesterday.
Just as much as you can, what were you looking for on that last pair of inbounds and just kind of what broke down? I know the first one, Malik gets the ball poked away, but.
Well, they went to zone, and then when we went underneath out of bounds, we had a play for Miles to come off because we knew that they would switch to big, and he didn't. He never came off. So, but that, being said, we had our opportunities. We had a foul to give, which we talked about in the timeout, and didn't give it. And so that was huge. I mean, you got to make plays down the stretch, and I got to get them to understand that. And, we missed a big front end of a 1-and-1 that could have put us back up 3 or 4. I mean, it's just the little things that we didn't execute coming down the home stretch.
Yeah, that would be those missed free throws I talked about as well. So just an overall poorly effective game for the Hoosiers. That's going to wrap it up for this hour. We've got more coming up. We'll hear more from Mike Woodson. Dustin Dopirak will join us as well. We've got plenty more to talk about. We're back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company's studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Heart Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
Coach, giving up 78 at home, just your level of concern or your thoughts on, just giving up that many points in a home game.
Well, I mean, it was that type of game. I mean, they're a good offensive team, and I thought we did everything we were supposed to do to get back in the game, and we just didn't finish. With the foul to give and not give it's unacceptable, but hey, you can't go back and get it now.
Yeah, it's unacceptable, but why? Who's taking responsibility for that? That's the thing. Yeah, why? But why didn't it happen? With the foul to give, but was anyone instructed to foul? It didn't appear that way. They were letting it kind of play out, and then they got scraped off on a pick on a screen, and Rice was able to knock down the 3 as he had done kind of successfully for a big part of the game. What did he on the game? He was only 5 of 7 behind the 3-point line. That's all. 23 points. Maryland's leading scorer. I mean, there should have been somebody up in his jersey, but that's neither here nor there. Again, there's no accountability. And that's the thing that bothers you the most. Or if I was looking at it as from a fan standpoint, that's what would bother me the most. There's just no accountability. And if you're not taking accountability, how are you going to address things? How are you going to fix things? And that's, to me, why you continue to hear a lot of the same things over and over. I got to get them to do this. I got to get them better at this. We got to get them better. Man, that conversation's been going on for quite some time. Why it's not happening is not addressed. Never has been. There's never been an acknowledgement of why it doesn't get done. No one is held accountable. And I'm not saying it in a part to throw somebody under the bus, but man, it's a little late. It's not like these guys are making $500,000, man. Think about that. $500,000. So it's not a good deal for Indiana fans to have to deal with that. But I've also said, for those that want change and are hoping for change or had hoped for change and wanted change, that was not going to be a good season. They don't fire winners. So you know what that means. You're going to have to endure this. Some of it's good. Would you rather be close and to have a shot or to get, beat down. You could look at it this way. Maryland goes to Illinois, a team that is much better than Indiana, and beat them by like 20. I don't understand how that happened, but they did. USC, who Indiana beat, went to Illinois and won. So, and this team had the capability of winning that game yesterday, obviously. So they're good enough to play, but there are sometimes like yesterday, I looked out there at some of the lineups, and there was one 3-point shooter on the floor for Indiana. At that moment, Miles Rice, I did not see as a 3-point shooter up until the end of the game when he just went crazy. He over on the year, I don't think has been a high level 3-point shooter. The best of the team has been Luke Goody, who I know he had foul troubles yesterday, but I was really bewildered by the lack of time he was in at the end of the game. I mean, why would you not have him in there? Although he was, for whatever reason, man, he was picking up fouls yesterday. It was kind of weird. Some of them were ticky-tack, and probably weren't good calls. He ended up with 4 on the day. But you've got to have him in there. He only played 17 minutes yesterday. And a part of that was foul trouble. I get that. But there were minutes that I thought he should have been on the floor. But regardless, Indiana really only has 2 3-point shooters, Mackenzie Mbako and Luke Goody. Now, Miles Rice came alive yesterday, but overall he hasn't been. But they only had one. Goody was on the bench. Then at the very end, why would you not have the needed players in? Why was it all of a sudden, oh, hey, we need him in? Oh, really? And then you have to ask, okay, you've got this last second play. Why were directions not followed? Why would directions not be followed in such a critical time? So, or is all the blame there? Who knows? We've got to take a quick break. When we return, Dustin Dopirak will join us. The Pacers, we'll talk about winning. They're still rolling. Well, they split with the Spurs, and I don't know what it is with the Pacers. They get their butts kicked at home, but then they'll go on the road and they'll do the same. They'll return the favor. They did that with the Spurs. They lose by 30 and then win by 38. It's kind of crazy, but we've got more coming up. The great Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joins us next, right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper located. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Joined now by the great Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star, Pacers beat writer. And boy, the Pacers are about the only thing basketball-wise, unless you've got a great high school team for Indiana fans to follow. Purdue playing well, but the Pacers, they're continuing it. I know that getting beat at home by 30 is not fun, Dustin, but they go on the road to San Antonio and follow that up with a 38-point victory over the Spurs. And they've done that a couple of times. They split with, was it the Celtics? They did the same thing with, and then somebody else. They lose at home, but go on the road and lose. And we've lost Dustin, and he'll get back with us. There we go. Hello, Dustin. Yeah. I was just talking about the weird thing with the Pacers. They get their butts kicked at home, but then go on the road to play the same team and just return the favor. They've done that more than once this season.
They have, but you think they were playing at home, and you missed the boat on that.
Oh, they did win at home.
They were in Paris.
Oh, that's right. That's right. My God, I keep forgetting.
Yeah,
that's right.
On the schedule, it shows that as a home game because they had to be okay with signing up for that. So I'm sorry. Rick makes that joke about, well, one of those is at home, it's like we're losing a home game for that. It's like, and I found out the Spurs are too. Like, yeah, what did you think they were doing, Rick? Of course, that's what, if you're going to do one of those, that's how they had to do it in the schedule. So technically the home game was the first game, but basically, if you really think about it, that was the one.
Well, maybe they knew that there's a mentality or something. I don't know. It's crazy.
I think what they knew was they had 3 days in Paris, and they had a good time before that.
Well, there's a good story. That sounds like a good story title there. 3 days in Paris.
The Pacers appeared to have a really fun day in Paris. I mean, no. What the thing about it is when they do these 2 and 3, they're a lot better when they're a team that adjusts. I mean, I think if you look at these deals where the same teams play twice in 3 days, a lot of those end up splits. A lot of them. I mean, unless you're looking at a top team versus a team that's trying to lose, that's tanking. A lot of those cases, you don't see somebody sweeping. You see a split. And the reason why is, you play one of these games and the other team gets to figure out, what your deal is. And I think, you only get so much time to really dig into somebody and prep, and you only want to fill your guys so much with so much stuff when they're trying to prep when you're playing 82 games. But you play a game and then you see what a team is doing and you see what gets the crap kicked out of you, and you're able to say, okay, well, this is what we got to do to take that away. And then a couple of days later, you can do it. And this is a classic example of that. I mean, I think you play Victor Wembanyama and you get a sense of how he changes the game. And you're kind of dumbfounded when it happens, kind of the first time around. And once you have a feel for him, you got a better shot. Basically, once you kind of know where he is on the floor, know how fast he can move, and know what you can get away with and what you can't. I saw a lot more confidence just in that. I mean, they scored 62 points in the paint on Saturday. And so there was a clear willingness to take the ball to the rim, and they had a better sense of their timing for, okay, you got to get it out now. But they did some other stuff, ran some, put him through multiple screens in the same game. Just try to make sure, just keep him from getting downhill and getting opportunities to block shots. He blocked one shot. He had 5 on Thursday. And for a guy like that, I mean, he can just change so much of what you can do, based on his length on defense. And when you get some comfort on offense, that allows you to, you get some buckets, and then that way you can pressure on defense. That's become really a hallmark for the Pacers. That's one of the things that's made them a lot better on defense this year, is that they've been more willing to bring full court pressure. They did a lot of it in the playoffs last year, but I think it's kind of trusting that you can do it and the wheels won't come off again in the course of an 82 game season. Say that you can on occasion, pick up it's full court man. You're not talking about traps here. You're not trying to do that against the NBA team because they'll crush you. But you're making sure that you're picking up 94 feet, that your ball handler defender is picking up 94 feet, but your guys are following. If someone else is going to come in the backcourt, those guys are going to follow. Miles Turner got a steal. Defending, Wembanyama on an inbounds pass from the opposite baseline. That's not normal. You don't see that a lot. You don't see a 5-man in the backcourt because Wemby can handle it. And so, Miles Turner had to be willing to say, okay, well, I'm going to defend you for 94. Again, centers don't do that. Again, also centers don't usually, 7'4" guys usually don't handle that far away from the bucket, but Wemby went out and banked in a 30-foot-3 the other night, so this is not a normal human being. But the Pacers did a good job of handling that very not normal human being the second time around. I don't know. I'm going to think a lot of people were saying, well, do you think that the Pacers just got way too into being tourists the first 3 days? I mean, maybe, but I don't know if they win that game anyway. I mean, they tend to do this. They tend to do a lot better the second time around. But it is wild to look and see. You're talking about a 52-point swing defensively. I mean, they held the Spurs under 98 after they gave up 140. That's a drastic difference. A lot of that is shot variance. I mean, the Spurs made some shots on Thursday that they didn't make on Saturday, but it's still pretty wild. But I mean, that's your Indiana Pacers. Obviously, also Tyrese Halliburton had just a phenomenal stretch in the third quarter. He scored 16 straight points. At one point, scored I think 5 buckets in a row. Just 3 threes and another deep long 2 that was just kind of stepping on the arc there. He just had a remarkable stretch of basketball, and that made a difference too. And he was just okay on Thursday, but had a lot of things come together for them. But it ends up being a nice win. I think it ends up being a valuable week for them. It would have looked really bad if they go out to Paris and they get whitewashed and they just get just crushed. But I think you'll take that, and I think got a lot of fun memories. I think Rick Carlisle didn't seem like he was too jazzed about the idea before they went out there, but I think he had fun. Maybe he'll come back and do his next press conference in a beret. We'll see. But
Did he bring back you? Did they bring you a beret back?
They are not going to bring me a beret back. I'm sorry, but Rick had to deal with the European press, so I expect Rick to come back and tell me and Tony East that he misses us, because that was fun to watch. Actually,
well, give us some insight into that. What was it? The questions, I'm assuming, because usually the questions are like, "What are you talking about? Why are you?"
Yeah, there was some of that. Yeah, so it was you basically, from what I could sense, because I only watched it on video. Obviously, I wasn't there. But they obviously broadcast the press conferences on. They always broadcast the press conferences on the FanDuel Sports Network, basically on the Kristen Airy, Quinn Buckner, Jeremiah Johnson, their kind of regional broadcast. And so they had it on, and I missed the question. They didn't put the first question on. They had Rick's first answer. And they kind of cut into it usually. But they also put it on YouTube, and basically the first question after the game was, "Hi Rick, happy, I presume?" And Rick goes, "That's the question." So I kind of howled at that. And so you have the difference between obviously the French reporters usually, obviously there's a language barrier, so that's their second language usually, so they're trying to work through it. And obviously I couldn't ask any questions in French, so I'm not going to look down on that at all. But it's tough. It's very.
Parlez-vous français? Fais-moi.
That's as far as you can go, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Ask about third quarter defense with that. Yeah.
Quartet de tres defense.
There you go.
That would be it, man. I would
Yeah.
be sign language and no.
I would just be
I,
praying. Yeah,
I
exactly.
am a little surprised though that they don't have people that are a little more attuned to being able to do what
They are more.
want to
They're
do.
way more attuned than us.
I
They're
meant being
way
able
more
to
attuned than us.
communicate.
Yeah, they're way more attuned than us. I mean, like you know, the French press is much better in English than the American press is in French. I promise that.
Well,
it's not even close. It's dramatically better. And so I'm not taking anything away from them. And that's just, there's some strangers in a strange land thing to that. And it was helpful, I think, obviously it was helpful for the French press, but the Pacers had two guys who speak French. You know, Pascal Siakam and Benedict Mathurin. And basically they were interviewed after the loss, and I don't think Siakam answered a single question in English in that. And I was like watching it. I was like, it's really cool to watch this. It doesn't serve me any purpose. I have no idea what Pascal's saying here. And I don't know if there's a translation available. But it's certainly, pretty impressive. But yeah, no, I mean, and also like the British press tends to be just aggressive. Basically they just come at you. And there was a little bit of that, like it was basically like, what'd you screw up? I can't remember. Like they asked them, like I remember just how the question was answered about how bad, because they gave it 45 in the third quarter on Thursday, and I can't remember how it was asked, but it was like sharp, like basically like what happened, like it was okay, close at halftime. You guys were in it, and then you fell apart. So what'd you do? Like, and Rick was like, okay, try not to be like, mean in the foreign country, but it was pretty interesting. So, but it was fascinating. But yeah, no. But all in all, interesting to see. I think Rick sent us that he the Paris motorcycle police gave the Pacers and Rick in particular a Medal of Honor. So they're gonna hang that in that he was very complimentary of the Paris police for weaving them in and out of traffic and getting the arena. I just thought it was kind of pretty fun.
They must have really embraced this, the Parisians, and enjoyed this. Now, is this the first time that the NBA has done this?
No.
Okay, I mean, they've been going to Paris for a minute.
I don't know. They haven't been for a minute. I mean, I think they've done these European games. I don't know if they do one every year. I don't know if I think they've played in Paris before. I presume they must have played in Paris before. Obviously, they're capitalizing on the moment here. And obviously, there's a reason why they sent Wembanyama. I mean, that was the point. But I mean, I read a Sports Illustrated story on, the development of Accor Arena, but also just the development of French basketball. I mean, obviously the top two picks this year. So Wembanyama goes number one last year. Zachary Risasher goes number one this year. Alex Sarr goes number two. He's French. The French basketball is obviously on the rise. They're coming off a silver medal in the Olympics. French basketball is peaking. Basically, they're currently they're obviously the strongest European country, and that has not been the case, for very long. I mean, obviously you go back, certainly in the old days. I mean, the Yugoslav republics were the team that you had to worry about. Spain was certainly a team that you had to worry about. Obviously, even you go back to last year and Germany wins the World Cup. France being the preeminent competition for the United States is very, very new. And, you would even say, I mean, Canada probably had the second most talented team in the Olympics. Canada's still second as far as NBA players, but, the French making a difference is big. Obviously, Wembanyama's carrying a lot of that, but it's not just him anymore. And I think it's just trying to capitalize on as much of that rise in popularity as you can. And the Pacers just happened to be the other team they picked. I'm not even sure why they signed up for it or who said, hey, why not the Pacers? Greg Popovich might have wanted Rick Carlisle in Paris, and Greg didn't get to go because, Greg obviously unfortunately had a stroke. Hopefully he's recovering. But yeah, so, but we'll see if it turns into something positive for the Pacers. I mean, I think it's never a bad idea for you to grow your brand globally in the NBA and basketball, because, there is a market outside the United States in ways that there isn't for, some other sports. So, could turn out pretty well for them, obviously, but they were certainly there to see Wembanyama. The Pacers managed to put on a pretty good show.
Absolutely, and winning is the way to do that, especially for a team like Indiana, who's a mid-market program.
Sure.
You look at in the NFL, who is it in Mexico? Is it the Raiders that are the fan favorite by Mexicans? I think it's the Raiders.
The Raiders are, but the Steelers have a very good Mexican
really.
following. They do, actually. Yeah.
I should not be surprised, but I am a little
have one
surprised.
everywhere, I swear to God.
I'm telling you, I think that they have one on Mars.
We do.
If you went there.
We're
without
just
question.
colonized, man. That's what we do. We're going
It's the Steelers are one of those teams that just has it just does, man.
Yeah.
But that's tradition. That's tradition for you. That's what tradition does.
Sure.
And boy, that would sure parlay right into Indiana basketball right now. But we'll
let's do that next at the end of the next segment. We got to get.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Don't worry. That's the plan.
Hmm.
Don't want to shortcut this one. But so the Pacers have put themselves at this point of the year in a pretty good spot. As a matter of fact, a little bit better than they were last year at this time, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'd have to look back at what their record was through 45. You know, I mean, I could do that over this course, but like, I think, you know, they're probably right around where they were basically at this point last year. You know, in terms of record, and you know, being at fifth, obviously they've got some separation at fifth in the East. I mean, I think what's interesting is you've seen a couple teams take a little bit of a tumble. You know, oddly, you know, they've the Magic have gotten Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero back. They've had a tough stretch. Some of that is schedule. Basically, some of that's that situation. Actually, the Pacers were exactly 25-20 after 45 games last year. So right, it's the 45 game mark last year. Halliburton was hurt. They had just got Siakam back, or not Siakam back. They had just acquired Siakam, and Halliburton had, you know, made his try to get back that hamstring injury early, played on it in Portland, found out it was a bad idea, and went back on the shelf. And so a couple games later, you know, Siakam's still in there, and you know, Halliburton's not. But game 45 for them was they beat Philly, you know, a pretty good looking Philly team at the time, you know, with Siakam. And so they're right at the exact same spot they were a year ago, record wise. Like I said, probably better shape in the standings, you know, and because like some teams that were there last year obviously have fallen off. Certainly Philly is dramatically worse, obviously because of all the injuries they've had to deal with. Obviously Miami is dealing with the Jimmy Butler drama, and I think that's made it difficult for them to get a foothold. You know, Magic, again, with all, and Orlando has other injuries that they've dealt with, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. That was a team I thought was going to be really good. I mean, it's a lot has been asked for them to hang in there. They're certainly a phenomenal defensive team, but they've had some struggles. It makes it hard for them to score. Detroit's part of this, situation in a way that they weren't last year. Obviously, but the Pacers have a 2-game lead on the Pistons for 5th. They play again on Wednesday, and they got a little bit chippy in Detroit last time. So we'll see, you know, how that one goes. But you know, yeah, they're in really good shape. They're only 1 game back of the Bucks for 4th. Obviously, a little bit more separation from the Cavs, Celtics, and Knicks up there in those top 3 spots. But you know, they're in pretty good place. I mean, again, I think, you know, like the playoff situation is tougher, because I think it's harder for them to imagine getting past, you know, a Boston or a Cleveland in the semifinals this year if those 2 teams, you know, end up with the top 2 seeds. But could they beat a Knicks if they end up playing them again? Yeah, if they, you know, it's a situation where they ended up beating the Bucks and the Knicks last year. I think it'd be an either or situation this year, because if those guys are 3 and 4, you know, you can only end up playing one of them. But you know, they have a chance, I would think, at winning a series against one of those 2 teams, and they have a chance to build on it. I mean, again, I thought going into this year that there was a likelihood that they could be as good or better this year than they were last year, but not get the same path. And it'd be a little bit more difficult. And I think that's indeed the case, because I just think, you know, last year there was really one really good team and everybody else was beatable. You know, this year I think there's 2. So, you know, that changes the dynamic pretty significantly, but still they are back to the place where they ought to be, basically. And, you know, they have figured it out. I mean, I think that you can, you know, look at this team going forward and say, okay, they're going to be a tough out. You know, like, I don't know if they're good enough to make an Eastern Conference Finals run, but, you know, if they stand pat with this group, if they don't, you know, make some big trade that hurts them, I think they'll be in a position that, you know, they're at least going to be a playoff team and a team that can win a series.
No doubt. And one of the oddities, they look, at least in the East, they look like the only team that sucked in pool play for the in-season tournament. They were last. If you look at the other group teams that finished last, they're lower type teams, but it was kind of an oddity for the Pacers. They went 0-4 in that thing, but yet they're, fifth in the conference standings right now.
Yeah, they were. I mean, frankly, they were a bad team at that point. They were not a very good team at all, and I think they needed. I mean, certainly a lot of things were going wrong at that point. Certainly the injuries, not having Nemhard for most of that, was a big deal. Obviously not having Neesmith for almost any of that. And I don't think he played in a single game. Ben Shepherd missed a couple of those. And those, I mean, you're really seeing since those guys have been back, how big of a deal they are. I mean, Andrew Nemhard has really changed things dramatically. And so, they just really didn't have a fully together roster. They never, I mean, I say this a bunch of times. I mean, I think a lot of people underestimated how important those guys were because they're not big scorers necessarily. Nemhard's right around probably 10 points a game, maybe 11. Neesmith is a guy that can get 10 or 11. Shepherd's more at like 6. So you think, okay, well, you have your top 4 scorers, you should be able to beat people. Like that's not if you have injuries and it doesn't take away one of your top 4, like you got no right to complain. But they just weren't. Like these guys represent their connective tissue. Like they just don't function normally without them. They should have been able to find out a formula to win more than 10 of 25 games to start. And there were definitely games that, they had the teams they lost to, they had no business losing to. Brooklyn on the road was a terrible game. They had no business losing that. They had no business losing to Charlotte twice. That's ridiculous. And they had there was at least one of those 2 Toronto games they had no business losing. They found like they played like an undermanned Toronto team they should have beat. There was one game where Miles Turner was out and you weren't beating them if you had no answer for Jacob Poeltl because they didn't have a backup center at that point. I mean, they just had no hope in the middle, more or less. And so you can't expect to beat a team with a lot of really good wings and a good 5-man when you don't have your 5-man or any of your defensive wings. They just had no answer to stop them. There were a bunch of games they should have won and didn't, but now they're fully healthy. They're a different team. They're defending on a much higher level. Their offense is a lot more connected. They're playing the offensive style of basketball they did last year and dramatically better defense. And so it was weird for them to get run in that, but they did have a tough group. As I recall. I mean, again, Detroit. They set up that group thinking Detroit's still going to be a lottery team, and it's not. I mean, that was a big piece there is they got whooped by Detroit in that game. And that's because the Pistons look like a playoff team, like they're at least going to be a play-in team. I mean, maybe things shake out where they fall below Orlando or Atlanta or somebody like that. But like Detroit, the way it looks is going to have a postseason. And, they won 31 games. They were like 31-120 the last 2 seasons. Like it wasn't close. I mean, they were horrendous. So like Detroit got a lot better in that. They caught Toronto at a bad time. I think Miami was in there and Milwaukee was in there, and Milwaukee ends up winning the whole thing. So, like they did not have an easy group there, and they caught some tough breaks and they weren't healthy. So, and Miami was better then than they are now, obviously, because, now they have Jimmy Butler drama. But yeah, a lot of things changed since then, and the Pacers dramatically better team than they were better off not being in that knockout round because they got a lot of time to practice and get it together, and they needed that at the time, and got like 4 practices and were able to kind of reconfigure who they are, and it made a huge difference.
Absolutely. The Pacers continue to win and put themselves in position for a nice spot in the playoffs. Make sure you're following Dustin on all of that coverage at the Indy Star. He is the beat writer for that, but he is also a man of all knowledge, all knowing when it comes to sports. He's covered it all. And we've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break from the Hard Truth Studios. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
Like just big picture with this. I mean, you obviously have to swallow this tough loss. What is a game that ends like that? Is that harder to swallow than others?
No, anytime you lose, it's tough to swallow. I don't like to lose at all. I mean, it's just my makeup. And I know those guys in the locker room, hey, I love them to death, and they don't like losing. But again, I gotta help them more. You know, that's what I gotta do.
Yeah, Mike, when you start naming just the long list of things that went wrong late, I think you had 3 seniors out there. I'm sure you guys practiced that a lot. How surprised are you the execution kind of stumbled it that way?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say we executed to get back into the game. You know, we on the free throw line with the 1-and-1 up 2 with, I think, 20-some seconds on the clock. And then we just didn't get a key stop with the foul to give. You know, the ball scrambled out. You know, I mean, the initial thrust of their offense, I thought we played it well. And then when the ball kind of spurted around, you know, we just didn't get up and take the foul like we should have.
You've mentioned kind of multiple.
It was Mike Woodson there talking about yesterday, the end of the game specifically, in which Indiana had a foul to give when Maryland had the ball in the waning seconds, but they didn't look like they were told to foul to me because they were kind of defending at a normal rate, it seemed to be, and they were able to get that 3-pointer off by the leading scorer of the team and knocked it down. They did what they had to do, and then we all know what happened on the other end as well. Complete screw up. Just I mean, it was just a train wreck, and you don't get answers when those questions are asked, but you start to wonder why would it? How do you make, if a player's told, okay, you need to do this? Why did they not do that? I mean, that's just a simple question.
The one thing, so we have had the why wasn't he fouled question on the Pacers beat many, many times. So Rick has several times had to answer for why somebody made a 3 when they were up, but when they were up 3 and didn't foul. And so the one, like, I will say, having gone through that argument a whole bunch of times and having watched a lot of those tapes and said like those videos and said, all right, well, like, why didn't this guy foul? And a lot of times Rick will bring it up because we've asked him about it. And sometimes he'll be like, before anybody says anything, yes, there was a call to foul, but this is why he didn't, And a lot of times it's because the way a play happens, I mean, like, I think there was Jaylen Brown hits a 3 in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And, basically Rick said, like, just Pascal didn't think he was in position to foul, and it not, like, because you certainly could give him 3 free throws in the case he was in, he could have been in a shooting motion. I rewatched that one. I mean, I think I watched the last 4 or the last second half yesterday, and I watched rewatched the last 4 minutes or 3.5 today before I came on, just to kind of get a better sense, because I figured we'd be talking about it. I like Galloway because it is a scenario where it's like, all right, like, there's not really a point to fouling right on the inbound with 15 and a half to go, because it's like you just let him start to play again, and now you're in the bonus, basically. So it's like, all right, well, what's the point of that? Like, you do, like, it is saying, okay, like, you want them to run some clock and then foul, so they have to get back in the action again. Like, that's the best case scenario for you, is that they have to go through the action a little bit, they have to waste some time, and then you foul it in a way that puts them in a situation where they have to restart, and then getting to what they want takes them a little bit longer of time, and you put a little bit more pressure on them. You obviously don't get to foul for eternity, but it's just like, so you don't want Galloway fouling on the inbound right there. Like, that doesn't do you any good. So, like, Galloway's in a position where he has to say, okay, where's the exact right time that I want to do this? And I think he felt like he did a pretty good job of getting on him, and then he kind of got beat at the end. But like, at the end there's a possibility that you can foul and he can be going up. I thought I saw Renew and Ballo both try to foul when he turns. Basically, like, he gets stuck in there and he turns and he tries to pass it back out, and you see Ballo kind of whack his hip, basically. And I think they just, they didn't get the call there, basically. And then you have that screen out there on the elbow, and nobody can get around that. Like Ballo has like a split second where maybe he could have made a move on somebody. But it's very quick. And so I would say that's kind of where it is. Like, it is a little bit messy. So just foul is a harder thing. What is more inexplicable to me, like the broader, I mean, like, obviously, Galloway missing the front end of 101 just kills you, just absolutely kills you in that moment. Galloway's never been a great free throw shooter, but he's always been just okay. But like, your seniors gotta get one there. But, as far as a coaching thing, like, that last inbound, what like I'm not very good X's and O's guy. Like, Caitlin Cooper whoops my butt on that on a daily basis.
But you don't have to be on this.
But it's just like, you look at that, it's like, okay, where was your hope? Like, there's nothing going to the rim.
No, and I think it was Malik Renew that was also there in the corner with.
Yeah, Malik Renew was also there in the corner, which, like,
there was no room.
There's supposed to be a screen there, and I get that, but it's like, all right, like, there's got to be like a couple options to attack, like, there's got to be something, but like, there's, I guess, like, I mean, you only got 3.5 seconds. Like, if the goal was to try to, I mean, like, the other stuff is all up top, like, every, the other guys that aren't part of that little kind of side pick and roll action, like I think that's what they're trying to get, is a screen there. And spring him, and he ends up just bottled up in the corner and forcing it with no space. And there's nothing going to the rim, and there's nothing, like, there's nobody under, like, somebody gets underneath the basket, but it's Galloway who's underneath the bucket. Like, you've taken your big, one of your big guys out, and you've got the other one involved in a screen. And so it's just like, okay, like, you need as many people as possible, just like in attack mode, in position to score the basketball, and not like, or you need to draw up as many possible options. Like, you can't be, like,
create one thing that's unlikely. You know, like you got 3.5 seconds. You got to be able to dial something up that's getting you close to the basket or whatever. It's just, yeah, I mean, just didn't work. You know, and it just wasn't, you know, just wasn't well drawn up. I mean, like, again, like I'm not very good at that. I could not draw you up plays. I can't coach your, you know, knee-high team. But, you know, like, there had to be something better that you could have come up with out of that timeout. And like Woodson's, you know, and I read Zach's story this morning, you know, from last night, I guess. And then he said like Woodson's generally pretty good when it comes to, you know, when it comes to drawing up, you know, out of bounds plays. Like he's had some really good ones in his time. And I'm just like, well, where was that going? You know, like where
well,
was
it was preceded by a whole bunch of confusion. The personnel, they didn't have we don't have the right guys in. Oh, we still don't have the right guys in. So now you've just got guys coming in,
right?
And you're setting up a place like,
yeah,
who's doing
there was
what?
a lot. I mean, I understood the concept of that because, you know, like the previous play when they go the sideline out of bounds, Maryland goes to zone. And so, you know, the idea there is say, okay, we'll get some suitors against the zone and bring Luke Goody in, and, you know, and bring in Mbako. And it's just like, okay, well, you didn't design anything for Goody or Mbako that was going to spring them, you know? And so, like, I get the idea.
Yes, he gets what they were trying to do is what he was trying to say. And hopefully he can reconnect. I think Dustin's connection was disjointed there, much like the Indiana offense was yesterday. So, yeah, like AJ says, there will be a change at the close of the season. Ben McCollum for Drake should be the next hire. Well, yeah, there are going to be a few names out there. There's no doubt that IU fans certainly want to be looked at. Dusty May, Chris Beard, McCollum, his name has come up a few times, but you'll have to see. Let's get Dustin back on there. There we go.
Hey.
But yeah, there's a lot of names being bounced around. There's no doubt in my mind that a change is coming at the end of the season. I now my thought is, can Woodson make it through the end of the season? Because they've lost 4 out of their last 5. And it's not going to get easier. This road is getting tougher. They've got to go to Purdue. They've got to go to Wisconsin. And the game that's really going to be bad, I think, not from a win-loss standpoint, but just when Michigan comes to Indiana and the opposing coach gets the loudest rousing of applause in the building that day, that's going to be a little crazy, I think, to see. Because there's no doubt that that's going to happen when one of the favorites to take this position over. And that's Dusty May, of course, when he arrives into Simon Scott Assembly Hall. And that's coming up. That's going to be the oddest thing that I've ever seen, because I've never seen that. I don't know that IU fans have seen that. And, you know, just thinking back, when has that occurred that the potential next coach, when it's about to happen, you know, here by the season's end for sure, is coaching in the arena? Boy, I'm sure it might have happened before, but I don't recall it. The reason it might have happened is because Indiana's been in this position too many times of late. You know, this is going to be their 3rd coach in 8 years. You can actually say it's their 4th coach in 9 years, whatever, when Crean was let go, because that would be the truth. You had Crean, and you had Miller, then you had Woodson within a window. And I've said this over and over, they've got to get this right. Dustin back with us.
Sorry
Dustin,
about that.
That's okay. We're just talking about a lot of names that people are going to bounce around, fans are going to bounce around. But the odd thing is, and I'm saying this only because, in my personal opinion, there is no doubt that a change is coming at the end of this season. And if that is to happen, I think that Indiana is actually in a better position to land a a coach that can do what needs to be done than they have been in the last 2 cycles.
Sure.
But I can't remember really who all was available when Archie was, because there was no one else considered. But the last time around, they wanted Brad Stevens and this and that. But there wasn't really a lot of available options at the moment. This time, there does seem to be. I mean, Dusty May, as crazy as it sounds, has a low buyout. It's $5 million now. It goes to $4 million May 1st. I think Chris Beard's buyout is $3.5 million at the end of the season. So there are options. Brad Stevens is, I don't think he's a real candidate because everybody always brings his name up. And then there's been chatter. Well, you know what? Maybe he's bored, wants to get back to coaching. His daughter's about to graduate high school in a year. But there are the biggest point is I don't either. I'm just saying that's just been some of the chatter. That's been a lot of the hope for Indiana fans.
Sure.
I think it needs to be someone who is actively coaching in college right now, who is a proven winner. And those are two of the biggest attributes that the next coach will need to have. They have to be able to deal with the portal and NIL and winning. Boom.
No, I mean, I think, and I feel like obviously I haven't followed this closely enough to say, okay, well, who would be on my list? I mean, usually when I was covering college ball, I would have a sense of, okay, well, these are some names that would make sense, in this case, as somebody would look at. I think obviously to your point, and I think this is certainly the biggest thing, the dynamic is different. Like like you're looking for a different resume. You're looking for a different skill set than you used to. And I think they're in better shape because they were able to get somebody in football that was able to show that. And you can certainly look like, I think if you're a coach and you're looking at Indiana, like never before would you have cared about football as anything. Like that doesn't factor into too much of your discussion at all. But when you're looking at it and saying, okay, well, this guy got it together real fast because he got an NIL budget, like that tells you something. Like more than it would have before, more than anything involving football would have been before. Like whether, you might have cared that they got facilities or not got facilities. I mean, you might have liked or not liked the idea that Indiana that Indiana basketball is matters more from a, cultural perspective. But you're looking at it and saying, okay, there's NIL money there, there's NIL money there. And that means I can do something. And so, and that means if the football coach can get it together in a year, that means I can get it together in a year. That means I got hope. So now it also means you probably also got expectations that are different. You're not going to be told hey, you get 4 years to rebuild this roster. Like whoever, takes this over again, presuming they make a change. It's not going to be a Tom Crean scenario where it's okay, you are, dragging it up from the mud and you've got time to go, restart every single relationship we have, basically as an organization. If in Indiana is basically Tom Crean, just fix this is a wreck. It's not going to be like that because it's going to be well, you got millions of dollars that you can give to players now. So, we expect a return on that.
And quickly, but the good thing about the two coaches that I've talked about, Dusty and Chris, is they've done just that.
They're proving it.
They both went to new places and won immediately. And Chris Beard did it at a place that has zero basketball tradition, and they're not known for basketball. Ole Miss is not what you'd call basketball school, and the SEC hadn't been a basketball conference. It happens to be a juggernaut at the moment, and Ole Miss is still successful while that's going on. So that's a huge feather in his cap, but he does have some baggage. Everybody knows of the charges that were filed and dropped against him a few years back. And it gets to the point to where do people give people a second chance? I think that I know that what the issue was about is very important.
Sure.
But do you not give people second chances is something, because I can tell you right now, I know someone who had something similar in their background, but they're one of the people that I respect most in this world today for who they have, what they have become, who they are as a person. So I definitely think that, it's a little short-sighted not to look at it in that regard. But
well, I mean, at the end of the day, it requires a full and deep, for lack of a better term, investigation, and background check's not enough for that. It's not a question of whether you don't check to see if there's a new filing or whatever, or he's in trouble for that. Like, you have to talk to people that are around him, spend time with him, know what he does on a daily basis. I mean, that's the sort of thing, like, the things that, not just in terms of what he was charged with, but in terms of like what you've generally heard about his overall behavior, is stuff that, that can be chronic, and there are people who, never stop, basically. So, and there are people who do, and there are people who move on. And so and when some of the people move on, like, they're as trustworthy as they can possibly be, because they've been to the bottom on certain things. So they, that's obviously, that requires a whole, but it requires a lot of, checking out what you're buying. And it's not like Indiana is, I don't think Bloomington is a place that you can get away with certain things. It's a fishbowl, in terms of, it's not a very big place. You don't have a lot of opportunity to mess around. Like, you can't, that's a dice roll, basically. And it's a tough one. So you got to know what you're bringing in from a, behavioral standpoint, as far as that's concerned. You can't afford to be wrong. And so you like, it is one thing to say, like, I mean, people deserve an opportunity to get better, retribution, not retribution, but like second chances, this kind of things. But you got to make sure that you're not, making a foolish decision that other people have made, and, putting yourself in a bad position and them in a bad position. So
absolutely, because they have to get this right this time.
They do.
I mean,
they can't miss. This can't. If it blows up for behavioral reasons, that's the worst case scenario. So that can't happen. Yeah.
And John says, why not now? Why wait? And well, there's a lot of things that go into it. The timing of it, as far as the team, how it impacts the team, how it impacts the brand, which I understand the brand is being damaged somewhat, but also you've got some recruits. Now, Sisley is solid. He committed to Indiana. I don't believe in any sense of the imagination he committed to Mike Whitson. He committed to Indiana. I think he is solid no matter what. They just got a commitment from the Zerno kid from Lithuania, who looks to be a prolific shooter. He's older, so he's more mature. That's not a recruit you want to lose. The next coach will want that guy.
Yeah. To me, there is a, I don't know, method to this, I guess. Like I'm trying to think of what's a great way to put it. If you're going to make a move, like there's got to be some class, I guess, that, like, for lack of a better term, like you're firing an alum, if you would be firing him, obviously. And so it's like there has to be, like, kind of a, like, you don't, I don't know what purpose it serves you to fire somebody in January. Yeah. I don't know what you get out of it. Like,
I don't either. You had Isaiah Thomas on radio last week on Indie Radio saying that Whitson deserves another year, and I'm like, no, he doesn't.
And again, that's so that's the thing. Like, and that's a big part of it, is, so, like, you have to remember, like, you have to remember who you're firing in this case. Like, you have to keep in mind, like, this is a respected alum. This is somebody who won as a player. This is somebody who, and so it's just like, if you're going to, like, and again, I mean, I think they're going to make the move. And I think if unless something drastic happens between now and March, and there's just a remarkable turnaround, like, I think you have to move on. But, like, we're talking about personal relationships here. And we're talking about personal relationships with people that built the program, and, like, that are ambassadors for the program. you know, and they're not gonna be happy about it no matter when it happens, but like you can ease this, you know, like you don't want, you know, you don't want Isaiah Thomas out there shredding you, you know, like that's probably your, you know, arguably the best player that ever played at IU, you know, like maybe not definitely, but you can make the case. And so it's just like, okay, like he's out there and he's big enough to have a platform still, you know, on NBA TV all the time and that kind of thing. Like, you know, you don't want all of your alums from that era ripping you a new one, you know, publicly. And certainly all of those guys are old enough now to have platforms. They matter. You know, again, like you don't let them make like all the decisions, you know, but it's just like you have to, there's just got to be a method, you know, like you just, it's almost like, okay, like the best thing you can do is just not make this place look like, not make IU look toxic. Like that's a charge between now and, you know, mid-March is, you know, make it look like a place you'd want to work.
Good luck with that, because that ship has kind of left the port, whether or not they could get it turned around or not. What's up next for you, brother?
They come back. I imagine they're back from Paris today, and so they're doing nothing, and which you should, you know, basically if you ever go to Paris, make sure the next day you come back, don't do anything. But so I think they'll probably practice tomorrow, and then they play the Pistons on Wednesday, and the Hawks on Saturday. They spread it out a little bit for them to start this, and Pistons Wednesday, Hawks Saturday, and then it's then they hit the road. They go to Utah next Monday, I believe. So. You know, I think the answer to how do you not play Goody at the end is Anthony Leal was playing out of his mind.
Yeah, but still, Goody had to tell Woody to go back to the handshake line and shake hands.
Yeah,
it was like he thought it was a halftime break or something crazy. But
that's strange. Yeah, but anyway,
appreciate you as always, brother. Look forward to next week. I hope you have a good one, and Maxine as well. She hasn't met Hank yet. We'll have to show her Hank. So
chilling out. All right.
Appreciate you, brother. The great Dustin Dopirak joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow, and me as well on Twitter, X at Jim Coyle ISB. Give us a subscribe and hit the notification buttons on if you're following on YouTube. Otherwise, we're back tomorrow to do this again. That wraps it up for today. Big thanks to Don Fischer, Greg Rakestraw. Appreciate each and every one of you guys most of all. And we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.